Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're zooming in on a very interesting topic, and that is when the relationship with a manipulative individual, psychopathic or narcissistic, begins to transcend just the love bombing phase, the bonding phase, the attachment phase, and you've become intimately close. There's the love making, there's the passionate outings, there's the spontaneous, thrilling adventures, the titillating romance, the getting swept off of your feet, going to crazy places, doing crazy things, quote unquote, living life, having a good time, cutting loose. Sowing your wild oats, etc. Getting fused with the energy, the sexual high of being involved with a narcissist or psychopathic manipulator. However, what I want you to understand, and I think is very important, is that when we're dealing especially with a psychopathic individual and the relationship begins to evolve, it begins to grow. Remember, relationships grow, ebb, and change. They don't just stay stagnant. They need to catapult. They need to go in one direction or another. Really, because if it's staying still, eventually it's going to go backwards or it's going to go forwards. It might broaden a little bit, but eventually it's going to catapult into a direction. And if you're a driven individual, or you are a go-getter type of individual, you are a creative individual, then chances are you won't want to stay in that stuck relationship with a psychopathic abuser for very long without calling it out. And so the focus here is looking at really how the relationship grows, progresses, and evolves. And with a psychopathic individual, realize that the traditional cycle is the idealizing, the devaluing, and the discarding. In a cycle of a quote-unquote healthy, long-lasting relationship is going to become one of attachment or bonding, where you become bonded, connected, attracted. There might be the infatuation, the enmeshment, the closeness, the intimacy, and then becomes the sex. And then from there comes the caregiving. It becomes the fondness. It becomes the acts of kindness for this individual. It's the back rubs. It's the massages. It's, combing their hair. It's doing their clothes. It's making their dinner. It's doing their shopping. It's being there for each other. Picking you up when you're down. Going out for drinks. Going out for dinner. Going out dancing. That's part of the love dance. And then usually there's the caring. Let me get your bag for you. Let me do this. And you're taking care of people. That is really then how love relationships stay the course and have the longevity. And of course, there's the giving and receiving of both caring and being cared for. And of course, you get more from a relationship than just being alone. You have companionship, you have personal growth, you have, great times, etc. Realize, though, that in the cycle of a psychopathic relationship, it is not attachment, bonding, sex, and caregiving. It is love bombing, devaluing, and discarding. And why does the psychopath individual do this on a deliberate basis? This is just how they are. They lack a conscience, and they lack the ability to care for others. So when you see a psychopathic individual give you a gift, for example, at Valentine's, they might just throw a box of candy at you. Here you go. I mean, they don't understand. They don't really get why people would give candy, why they would give flowers. They don't understand. For example, I've had psychopathic individuals tell me that they just don't have the emotional connection. It just doesn't register for them. In fact, they might hear music and they might just get the overall feel of the music, but the words themselves don't really register to them. I found that most interesting. In particular, the song that this individual had described this to me was a song. This was a couple years back by a producer or a artist, Kid Rock, and he did a song. I don't know if it was a take off of not Sweet Home Alabama, but it just talks about, making love down by the sea and drinking and smoking and doing all this thing, and how it lasted all this summer long, and and in other words, the psychopath had told me, and I guess I should, for reference of this video, I should have more of the specifics here, but in other words, a psychopathic individual doesn't have the same emotional context and connection to music. So they don't get the words, they don't get the human connection, they don't relate to the music. They just relate to an overall very glazing over of the impression of the music. So they don't really connect to it on a very sort of deep level. They just have a very sort of superficial experience of it, which I thought was interesting. But this relates to also how the psychopathic individual does not have an ability to care for others. They can understand empathy on a psychological level, but they do not feel it whatsoever. They lack a conscience in the brain, the way that they process emotional content of language, events, and therefore impulse control, and their high levels of dopamine and testosterone create a lack of empathy and an actual void of empathy. It's not even like on a scale, it's very, very low. So it's just like, for example, I am a female, I don't have any male parts to me. I can understand what it is to be a man, but I don't know what it is to be a man. It is very much that serious and that severe. Just the degree that, I am not a man. Likewise, the psychopathic individual does not care. They do not care about their target. They do not care about who they surround themselves with. It is very extremely self-centered and self-promoting activity to get whatever it is that they need. That is why they have targeted who they have targeted. And you need to know that if you are in this relationship and you have this fear of losing the joy that is there, oftentimes that is one of the hallmark traits of a manipulative relationship. As Edelyn Birch describes in her book on psychopaths in love, and she talks about how to really know if you're in a manipulative relationship versus the real thing. And it's this constant being plagued of fearing that you are going to lose this person. You're constantly feeling like, this person is just dangling at the end of your fingertips, that you can't quite grasp them, that they're always going to elude your grasp, elude your requests, elude your wishes, and you're going to lose them. This experience right here is very much an indelible part of being in a manipulative relationship. And how this then turns from euphoria to dysphoria. And realize oftentimes, I very much believe in the act of projection. So this dysphoria that you experience with a psychopathic individual, this very much is what they feel on a daily basis. So this is why they need to constantly surround themselves with people, objects, events, high-risk behaviors to help satiate that feeling of dysphoria and boredom. And also, another key concept for you to understand if you're entrapped in a manipulative relationship is that your mood depends entirely on where the relationship is at. In other words, your mood, your focus is not inside yourself. So like we discussed here, your locus of control, your emotional strength, your emotional presence should originate, and you should feel that presence in your solar plexus. You should feel that connection within yourself. Now, when you are in a manipulative relationship, that locus of control, how you feel about yourself and your mood and your experience of life, is centered very much on this person outside of you. So it shows that you have given control over to this individual of how your state of being, which, if you're 15, 16, 17, in your 20s, and you're just learning about relationships with individuals, perhaps that might be the case, but as you become older, matured in life, it is very impractical and very devastating to be controlled by another individual outside of yourself. If you find yourself in that dynamic, you really do need to take a step back and evaluate at which degree this has transpired and at which degree this has now become going out of control. Because if the locus of control is outside of you, that means you are existing on a complete precipice of uncertainty. And you don't know if it's up or down, here or there. And so this constant ambiguity, anxiety, feeling of loss, frustration, anxiety, feeling suspicious, paranoid, and then the shock, the betrayal, the post-traumatic stress syndrome, and the trauma. This is all part of the deliberate brainwashing with which they intend to cycle you through. Just like, in these stages of war, brainwashing, like we see and hear about in China, where people and their complete personalities are transformed through the acts of torture, horror, and horror statements, sites, etc. Just even too much that I even want to discuss right here, right now. But realize that if you are experiencing that, then you really, without a doubt, are in the midst of and in the grips of a manipulative relationship. Generally, and those are the types of relationships with a narcissist or psychopathic individual. If this is the case, make every step you can to get rid of this person. It only becomes worse with time. It becomes more pronounced with time. It becomes more insidious. The strength and the tenacity of the manipulation becomes more profound. So I would just absolutely positively recommend you exit from this person, this relationship, and get away from them as soon as possible, as this individual has nothing but malice and malintent, despite their exterior of being a soulmate, with which it's very very typical mask with which they will create for those people with whom they love bomb and associate with. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos, that they do help you. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.